we try to go to some kind of tool to do what we heard this morning, and it's like so conscious leadership. How can we try to manage and to bring it to organizations? And how can we do that? Because of course the ideas and a lot of concepts that we heard, and if we believe that it is really useful and important for organization, how can we do it? So let's try. I would love to share the experience of a tribe. How could this be? So my story is like we've been working with Pinea during several years in organization and consulting, and of course trying to help with this shift, organizational shift. And then I had the chance to be chosen to fly to Silicon Valley for 2 months, and there was like the impact of technology began to work in my brain and my heart, of course, and began thinking, hey, maybe with technology we can create a different impact, and we can help with this cultural shift that Rick was mentioning today, this morning, and try to see if it's possible that this middle management, you remember the balance, that middle management is really involved, and can we do something with technology and humanistic vision together. So this is, I don't know what. No? I'll try to see. Okay, so basically our starting point was we are measuring everything today in organization, everything from sales to meetings to websites, and we have absolutely numbers for everything. But it's incredible, and we cannot measure sometimes these intangibles that are so key for organizations and for teams and for people, that we know that are like the 80% of the success of organizations. So thinking about conscious leadership and this measurement, the idea was, we are relying now too much on intuition, because actually what team management is today is talk with one person, then to the other, and try to rely on intuition and on like 1 year static survey that is not living anymore the day after. So we are talking today about living organizations and living teams. And of course, if we consider teams as living systems, our organization as living system, the very base is that one day and the other and next month will be different, because of course the system is evolving. So if we are thinking about measuring once a year or once every 2 years, it's really absurd in a moment or in an era where we are measuring everything in a constant way. So okay, how can we make better decisions? Because at the end, everybody will work in a team. 90% of people work within a team, and leaders has to take decisions based on things that are nowadays intangible. So with consultancy, we can help a cultural shift, conscious leadership. But at the end, if I'm a leader, how can I do that? I can apply all what I've learned, or what it's like in leadership management and leadership to my team. And this is the basic question that we have today. Sorry for the format in the shift between the Mac and the PC. Let's change it a little bit, the character, so it's okay. It's EQ and IQ. We really think that what we are talking today is about metrics and consciousness. So of course, if we are able somehow to measure this kind of shift, we can gain a lot in organization, because it's known that we talked this morning, whether you have conscious leaders, there are better results. But how can we help this shift in the organization? And if we don't know what happens within a team, how can we take decisions? So it's like, okay, we have to get, and at the same time, how to raise this EQ that Xavi was mentioning, that it's the collective team intelligence. So it's a process. It's not just having data, being able to do something, but it's really a process of growing and a process of cultural shift that we are seeing. So, okay, we said, well, we began like 2 years ago and tried to somehow define which were the factors of a team. And there were like 3 factors, the team factors, the personal factors that together measure also stress, and the harmony, so the conflict within a team. And we try to say, okay, let's try to measure it. And we measure it how? to transform this one-year survey into a management tool. So a tool that we can use as managers, as leaders, every day. And so what happens? That's what I want to share with you today. So there are 4 steps. The first one is a 2-minute test. The second is you have data. The third one, okay, you can take different action and learn from the data and learn from the actions and so on. So of course, help this movement. So let's try the test. Okay, let's imagine how many of you work in a team? Sorry, how many of you work in a team? Okay, almost everybody said. So imagine that you are answering this question for your own team. Okay, so I'm not lecturing, I'm not going there with brain and write, but imagine that it's 1 to 7. So if I ask you, how much motivation do you feel there is in your team now, do you perceive in your team from 1 to 7 in this moment? Okay, just think. What? So I will tell you, how much trust do you feel there is in your team now from 1 to 7? This trust that Eric was mentioning as one of the pillars of conscious leadership and organizations. Okay, then how much, for instance, effectiveness do you feel there is in your team now from 1 to 7? So let's imagine that you are working with these questions, and of course there are also personal ones like motivations or well-being. Well-being is an interesting one, we'll see there. And now, okay, you've answered, well. Now what you can see is your own perception compared with the average of your team. So imagine that all people in your team already answered, and now you can see yourself, where are you compared to your team. But the thing is that everybody in the team can see that. So actually, your peers, they would have answered, they did the same. So everybody sees his own perception compared to the peers. The evolution, the metrics, so of course you can learn. I'm telling all this just for the context, for the results. Okay, then we have a team health index. That is an algorithm that helps. Okay, this is not just performance. We see that at the end it's not about 1 to 7. We are not trying to judge. We are not trying to say 7 is good and 1 is bad. The idea of a conscious tool and of something that we are providing to organization is okay. The important thing is to know where we are, to be conscious where we are as a team. And if there's something we can manage, because if we don't know, we cannot manage. And if we discover late, it's too late. So if we can see it, then we can do something. And it's an algorithm between participation, that is the commitment within the team. Because of course, if you do not answer, so data are not real. So the first thing is, okay, everybody, we are committed to answer. The second is alignment between the leader and the other people of the team. And the third is the alignment among people within the team. It's very different if somebody answers 6 in a conflict, another person 2. So the average is 4, but it's completely different. So let's think about the team health index as something that is global, and it's much more than just a number of, I evaluated from 1 to 7 the rate, because at the end is our own perception, which is the key of communication. Okay, and so what we learn? So we apply this during 1 year. And to different kind of organizations, very big organizations, small organizations, 1 teams and many teams. So the idea is with data, there are some key learning about this cultural shift that we were talking this morning. Because of course, first of all, the weekly participation, the average participation is the key to data and is the key to commitment. We know that sometimes survey doesn't have participation because actually people do not believe in survey anymore because they don't see results. And this is a key issue for organizations. Sometimes we decided not to ask anymore to people, which is the perverse reverse of the issue. So we come later. So basically, there are 4 areas that, if you see, are very similar to the area of the conscious capitalism. Because at the end, if you just focus on performance, we found this. Performance is the effect. The first point to be touched and that must be touched is leadership. Of course, when we accept that I'm seeing the same as my team, I'm also accepting that we are sharing. So we are sharing results, and everybody, even if it's anonymous, everybody is seeing the average team results. So we are just some kind of bringing this conversation that are always under the carpet on the table, and it's much easier to do that. Communication. Once we evaluate it, then of course we have a language that is similar, and performance and well-being will follow. And all this with big data, which is quite easier. Because at the end there are some points that every tool that can try to do something for conscious leadership or for living organization is what Erika was saying this morning, the systemic approach. So we are seeing ourselves as a team. That's why the questions are on the team. We are not asking about individual perception. There are a lot of tools for individuals, but we are choosing to see the team, whatever the idea of team is in that organization. Because of course you can consider a team the whole company, you can consider a team a department, you can consider a team, so it's depending on which is the vision of the team. Humanistic vision of technology. We have technology and we can use it like a big brother, like to control, or we can use to empower people. The co-leadership focus. So of course, also we are taking all responsibilities. Whether we share results is not that the leader must do something and I don't have to do anything. Because in that moment, we are like a team, a real team, so we share results. Transparency, we are all seeing results. Trust, of course, if I'm not answering the truth, this is completely useless, sorry. And confidentiality at the same time. And also accepting that it's a social learning process. So it's not about today and tomorrow, but it's beginning something that can change habits in the way that we are working in organizations. And also there's like observer role for consultants and HR manager to be able to help teams to assess, which is not, one more time, is not control, it's about assessing. So, okay, there are different phases that respond to different moments of teams. When we see you remember the Erika graph about the process. It's a process. So sometimes the team has 6, sometimes there are 3, and that's not important. The important thing is to be able to react. And so why is a process? A process because it's growing. So the consciousness of the team is growing while doing the same questions. It's not the same as I answered the first time, or even I answer after 3 weeks or after 3 months. Because I'm a different person. I grew, I understood what does it mean. I shared with my team, we took actions, so that's why it's a process. So what we discovered, interesting thing. First, the EQ factor. So in the data, what we clearly see, it's a positive correlation, and it's a interesting correlation between the alignment of leaders and the team results. So first, when I'm a leader and whether I'm more aligned with my team or whether I improve the alignment with my team, so the better results. So this is some kind of data that are proving what Enrique also was telling about the alignment. And this is what data also shows. The second thing is the communication. We talked about this morning about communication, and if you're not able to communicate properly at the beginning, so of course there is some kind of, maybe it's a control tool. So this is easy, it's a good start. Whatever project or whatever tool you choose to try to help this conscious leadership, be clear and be transparent and be very, the communication is the key, we said this morning, to explain it, because the difference between a good explanation to teams and a different explanation is clear. And we also learned about this. At the beginning we thought that leaders would explain easily to the teams, but of course it's a cultural shift and we need to know that. So it's really easy, but you have to know that, of course, need to be explained. Also, there are this is an example. We chose a real example for you to see. So there are 6 teams. So we have clearly one team that is completely different from the other, and actually was a team that was composed of 2 different teams since the beginning. And at the same time, in this case, there was measurement of impacts of decisions on the team. So what you can see of consciousness, you say, okay, maybe I take one action of communication and it has an impact that is 1 week impact. Or maybe something happens that is not expected, that is the second one, and all the teams went down, and then they recovered because the leader did something. But why the leader did something? Because he was able to see it. So of course he could do something almost in real time. And the third one is an interesting one, was a corporate communication event that was sustainable in time. So actually that was the more impact. This was the one that generates the impact in the long term. You see the other ones were like high and then down. The other one was down and then recovering with a corrective actions. And the third one, okay, created the good impact. And also we discovered that you can see leadership styles. Of course, when you measure, you can recognize, depending on the behavior of the team, whether the leaders are doing. And there are a correlation between the interactions within the teams and the results. Of course, performance the same. We see the EQ is correlated with performance. So we have this data, and it's what Xavi said before. Is really just try. It's incredible. And also the co-responsibility within the team. This is a key factor. We discovered, and also in organizations, that people tend to give responsibility to leaders. So somehow give to others these responsibilities. And once again, if we really want to create this impact in organization and to shift, we need to be able to be transparent and to have more people on board, the more people possible on board. Also, positive correlation between gender equality, the more balanced team, the better performance. So once again, this is confirmed. And well, this is about communication. This is a real case also of learning. But what I would love to do, since timekeeper is here, telling me, is also that we have this John Gerzema, maybe you know him. He interviewed 64,000 people around the world, and that was discovers that for 80% of the leaders, there's a positive correlation between soft skills, so like the traits that are considered, culturally considered, more feminine, okay, and good leadership. So we are talking about this transformation of conscious leadership, and this is a point that we need to support. Of course, if we cannot support this kind of leadership, that will be difficult for us to shift into a conscious organizations. And also the well-being, because when you relate your well-being with the well-being of the team, then you discover whether your well-being depends on the team or your judgment on the team depends on your well-being. So it's like a mirror for people and a mirror for the team. So actually, talking about data, EQ, and consciousness, where we create impact on personal growth, because you see yourself, you see where you are compared to the team, and you can grow. So, like 50% of people say that they had their personal growth. Leadership, whether you are a leader, of course, it's a different way of working, and whether you are a teammate is also a different way of seeing the team. So change team's dynamics. HR and consultancy, from like controlling to observer and support, which is at the end the real role that we need, and organizational culture. That leads to economic results, organizational health, as Konstantin was saying this morning. At the end is really try to have the courage to do something. Something, it can be a tool, it can be an intervention with consultancy, it can be, but do the first step, to the one that you want. But of course, if we stay just in word, it's difficult somehow to bring this. And you know that you will do it, you will mistake, you will do it again, you will try. Maybe these 3 years of process are there, but they will arrive. And all that, the organization that you saw before, the logos that you saw before, they were not perfect. But of course, they made a first step somehow to do it. So that's it. It was the shift. Thank you.